Yeah. So the reason that the rabbi is on the call today is because we have a replacement, not a rabbi, but a replacement guest. That's I'm sure will probably take up most of the speaking time here, so I can save my voice.
That's
but
right.
On the podcast today, we have Masha Merkulova, who is the founder and executive director of Club Z. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank
Masha.
you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
So we had heard about you. So I don't know. Do you know the podcast Ask a Jew? I don't know if you've ever heard of.
Yes, I do.
Oh, really?
Okay. So that's Chayalea's other much less intellectual podcast.
It's fun.
But yes,
Thanks.
yes, it's that's the fun podcast. We're the intellectual podcast. But they had a guest on Isabella Tabarovsky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she mentioned Club Z on that podcast. And so we started looking into the organization, and we said, oh, wow, this is a really interesting group and doing work that is severely needed right now in the US. So we thought it'd be an interesting conversation to have you on.
Thank you. I wish this work was not needed.
Yeah.
My goal is to get myself out of business as soon as possible.
Amen.
But sadly, I don't know if you guys have seen the new film from Raphael Shore called edJEWcation, and it's based on his book, Who is Afraid of a Big Bad Jew?
Oh.
And it's a positive book and a film, but it goes through very depressing
of course.
Jewish history.
Yeah.
But it posits that, we as Jews come, with a certain value set of ideals and accountability. And as a result, people don't like being accountable. So as long as there's going to be Jews, there's going to be Jew hatred, unfortunately.
What's it called? Say the title again.
The book called Who is Afraid of the Big Bad Jew?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All
cool.
right. We'll put that in the show notes.
Since Jay said that it's an intellectual podcast.
Yes, exactly.
I am certain I will live to regret those words. But so Masha, could you talk a little bit about, I mean, first, I think your personal story is interesting. So maybe just talk a little bit about your personal story, and then we can get into, what Club Z does and why you thought it was needed and all that good stuff.
Thank you. I'll do it briefly, and then you guys can ask more questions. But I was born and raised in Soviet Union, as the Soviet identity is the one and only identity of mine. My mom is Jewish, has a very Jewish name, and is very typically in Soviet Union was a doctor.
Oh.
She married a Russian, ethnic Russian man. Funny part, my aunt, his older sister, was a total Jew hater.
Oh my gosh.
But I grew up in the Soviet Union. My mother didn't get any Jewish education. Her mother, got third grade Jewish education. My mother was a Holocaust survivor. So being Jewish really was not top of priority. So she never mentioned it to me or to my sister that we were in fact Jews.
Wow.
So I found myself standing in a passport office at 16 years old. When you're 16 in Soviet Union, that's when you go get your passport and you officially become a citizen of Soviet Union. And the passport lady looked at my application where you put your mother's and father's names. And she goes, this is your mom? Riva, the daughter of Leib? I'm like,
oh my God.
Yes. It's like, oh, honey, you're not a Russian, you're a Jew.
Oh my God.
And I just said, I had no point of reference. So I said, okay, well, put a Jew on it. And the next day I went to my high school. I was 16 years old, and I made an exciting announcement to everybody. Guys, I'm a Jew.
Oh my gosh, this is great.
So what not to out your age, but what year was that?
I think it was like 1989.
Oh,
I don't, I'm 50 years old. I'm very proud. I'm not shy about my age.
Yeah.
It's
okay. So this was right after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Correct. It was right in that time. And if you want a funny story, with perestroika, the religion was no longer the opium for the masses.
Right.
And so when I was 15 years old, me and my two friends who were clearly not Jewish, we decided to go church shopping. We went to the Russian Orthodox Church, and there you stand up the entire time, 3-hour service, you stand. God. We said, no, that's not going to work. Then we went to the Baptist church, and we did not understand why everybody was yelling.
Oh my God.
And then we settled on a very cultured, intellectual Catholic church where everybody sits. And funny enough, I never went back, right? Like, I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds good. I never went back. But yeah.
Wow. What part of the Soviet Union were you from?
I lived in Minsk, Belarus, which is what I didn't know growing up there, and I learned only years later, was considered one of the most Jewish cities with incredible amount of yeshivas and just Jewish life there. It was all wiped out by both the Soviets and the Germans.
Right.
And the only synagogue that was left standing was made into the Russian drama theater.
Wow.
Where I did spend a lot of time when I was growing up.
Wow. My husband spent a year in Minsk, actually, when he was becoming a rabbi. He did his year of being a shliach, student shliach. He did it in Minsk. And so he has lots of stories about that city. And he actually speaks Russian. So,
wow. Okay.
If you ever need a rabbi, Chayalea is like the Home Depot or the Costco of rabbis.
That is
her dad's a rabbi, her husband's a rabbi, 2 of her sons are rabbis. So
that is true.
Listen, Chabad movement has probably proven themselves to be the most successful Jewish movement there is. Mm-hmm. And really it's a lot of credit goes, of course, to the Rabbi, but also to everybody who kind of to you guys. And I know it's a difficult week for all of the Jewish people.
Oh yeah.
But especially to Chabadniks. So
it's
sending you love.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, I cut off your story. So you went to school, finding out you were a Jew, and saying, "Surprise, I'm a Jew." What was the response from your classmates?
So response to me was weird, but it turns out to be typical. I mean, I was immediately called all sorts of names. But again, I did not grow up with the baggage of being minority. I grew up very much a majority, so I called them names right back.
Interesting.
And that was it. Nobody called me names again.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
You're so right. It's funny you're saying that because there's an interesting commentary about Moses, why Moses had to be the one to take the Jews out of Egypt. Like he didn't grow up in Egypt really. I mean, he did, but he was in the palace and he wasn't a slave. He didn't live with the Jews. He lived in Pharaoh's. And the rabbis say that it's because he didn't have a slave mentality. He had the mentality of being a free person and he understood what that was. And so he had the ability to tell the Jewish people, like, there's more to life than being a slave. And so I think what you're saying is very it kind of resonates with that.
That's very cool. I never heard of that, but it's true. And one of the things that I think what makes a lot of sort of Soviet Jews different is that, first of all, we recognize that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism because we come from the country who gave that birth, invented it. And second of all, we are not afraid to fight for what is ours.
Right.
And we're like, we lived where we were reduced by somebody else to accept crumbs. Here, we're not going to accept crumbs by our own choosing. Yeah. We're going to demand equality.
Right. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. So how long after that did you leave the Soviet Union?
I graduated. So I was 18 years old when I came here.
Oh, you were young. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And did you come alone?
No, I made my whole family move, and then it's like the whole shtetl eventually came. My mom was about 8. So one brother went to Israel, one brother already passed away, and then the rest of them made its way here.
Wow, that's incredible.
Amazing.
Did you come to a Jewish community, or was your Jewishness now more central to who you were, like as you came to the United States?
So listen, again, when we came to the United States, all I wanted to do is be an American.
Right.
American. I didn't have many Russian speaking friends even, because I really wanted to be an American.
Yeah.
And I became much more Jewish when my oldest son went to Jewish day school, and I started learning with him. He had an incredible head of school who was himself a South African Jew. And so I became learning about Jewish stuff and Israel and all of the sort of like nice things that kindergarten and 1 and 2 and 3 third grader would learn. But my Jewish identity developed, if you will, is when in 2005, the only social media that existed back then was, believe it or not, YouTube. And I somehow videos that were coming across my screen were very confusing to me, because what I was seeing is Jews drag Jews out of their homes. Everybody's crying. And I couldn't find anybody in San Francisco Jewish community to explain to me what was happening. But once I understood, it became a matter of justice. So really, I came to Judaism through Zionism.
Oh, interesting.
To me, the more you learn about Israel, the more you are in awe of the miracle. And you realize that this could not have happened without the hand of somebody else. And I just became, a very visible Zionist in the Bay Area. I used to drive a Honda Odyssey with Israeli flags, and whenever there was anything, I would put like little, I get flyers. My Soviet upbringing comes back, and I'm like, hey, this many missiles fell on, what would you do? And so I became sort of like this crazy pro-Israel activist that, I would organize counter rallies, and I would just stand on the corner with a flag with a couple of friends and, pass out flyers. Really, to me, it was, how could you not see what is in front of your eyes? It was very clear, and it doesn't take a genius.
Wow. That's a fascinating way. I don't think I ever heard of someone coming to the religion through Zionism. I got to imagine 99% of the time it's the reverse of that.
Yeah.
But
right.
that's fascinating. That's fascinating.
Listen, when you meet somebody, so I spent almost 20 years in healthcare. I worked in a clinical setting. I was a labor and delivery nurse. And one of my coworkers was an evangelical Christian who knew at that time more about my heritage, my history, my people, and my people's accomplishments than me.
Right.
So it was utter shame that sort of like sent me to learn. Age.com became sort of like my yeshiva every day. I would go there, I would learn. And eventually I found my way to Chabad.
Oh, really? Oh, good. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I want to ask, before we get, Jay, I'm sure you're going to ask about Club Z in a second, but I have one question. Why, something I've noticed over the years, because we have a lot of Russian-born congregants in our Chabad and in our community, and they are the most, I hate making generalizations like this, but in general, they're the most openly Zionist, most openly, biggest advocates for Israel. And I'm just curious, what do you think it is about being a Russian Jew, and understanding what's going on in the world and seeing the reality of things?
Okay, as much as I want to take credit and say it's only Russian Jews, I have to tell you, it's not the Russian Jews, it's any Jews who are not Americans.
Correct. It's true. It's Persians. Yeah, it's true.
Right.
It's
right.
true.
It's Latin Americans.
Yes.
Yes. Let me see if I can make this sound.
Don't make it sound nice. Say the brutal, honest truth.
Okay, I'll tell you the brutal, honest truth. Yeah. Because we are not burdened by nuance and complexity of the situation.
Right.
There is a very famous Russian poet of 100 years ago, probably more, And the poem goes, just 2 lines. Little boy comes to his father. He sits on his chair, on his lap, and he tells him, Dad, tell me what is right, what is wrong, what is correct, what is incorrect. And that's how you start. Unfortunately, American Jewish education has taken for granted that parents or somebody else will teach kids the basics and they dive into nuance, and then it becomes a swamp of nuance and complexities that they cannot see clearly what is happening.
Right.
We're not burned by that. We can't afford to be anti-Zionists.
Right.
It's that is a nice Jewish American privilege that nobody else outside of the United States has.
Oh my God. And we need to clip this, and this is going to get played everywhere from now on. This little thing that you just said, because it's, it's true. I mean, what you're saying is the absolute truth about the reality here in America. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody, I forget who it was. It might have been Sam Harris. Somebody said once, I heard them say that Americans are the Nepo babies of freedom. It's
true.
Like you don't appreciate it because it's just you've swum in it, your entire lives.
Yeah.
And it's the people who it's like the story about Moses you were telling Chayalea, right? It takes someone from outside to understand the value of what you have.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting because in Hillel, there's always this conversation around diversity within the Jewish community, right? And the way that they believe diversity looks is very different than what actual diversity is within the Jewish community. And we often, and I understand, I'm not blaming anyone and I'm not criticizing, but, they think diversity is whatever is on the left, right? But the truth is that if you look at our student body, the Jewish students, right, the diversity is that we have Sephardic Jewish kids who come from very conservative homes. We have Russian Jewish kids who are very, right wing or conservative or very Zionist.
But also very secular, right?
Correct. Like, nothing to do with religion, right? Nothing to do with religion, but are very strong in their Zionism, right? Or very strong in their conservative values, even. And we don't want to acknowledge in a way that that's actually the diversity that exists within our student body. We're much more comfortable talking about diversity when it comes to LGBT or, pluralism within the religion, but not when it comes from communities that maybe are to the right of the center,
Which is ironic and hypocritical because the banner of the left is embrace diversity.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
Right. No, exactly. Yes. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So now we're finally going to get around to Club Z. So I think you've set the stage pretty well for why you founded Club Z. But maybe just talk a little bit about, how it started and well, I guess before we get there, maybe talk about Club Z's mission.
Yeah, exactly.
And what you're trying to do.
Okay. Club Z mission is to create a network, a community of educated, articulate Zionist activists. And there's a lot to actually unpack, and I'll take 30 seconds if you don't mind, because I had to change the mission. Our original mission was to educate Jewish youth about Israel and Zionism. And what I realized is that education is not enough. I was having cohorts of educated kids who knew a lot, but were not empowered to then do something. And while I know, argument for argument's sake and education for education's sake is very valued, our house is on fire. We need firefighters. And so what we're doing is we're creating a community, a network, a power grid of young people, teenagers and up, who are going to work together, yes, in their respective communities, but they're going to be connected to each other, whether it's a WhatsApp group, whether it's coming to our conferences, whether it's going to other conferences and meeting up with other Club Z kids and scheming and helping. That's the idea. Now, since I don't trust anybody else to do the education the way we do it, most of our time is spent on education. And even that is different. And I am no longer apologetic about it. Since October 7th, it became in vogue for Jewish professionals to say, oh yeah, I'm a Jewish activist. Oh yeah, I believe in advocacy. They don't. That's because for years before that, they would look down on anybody who was doing advocacy because they only looked at it through the lens of Hasbara.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the mistake is. The way we do advocacy, we don't do Israel advocacy, we do Jewish advocacy. We need to stop divorcing Israel from being Jewish.
It's so interesting.
When a kid, so here's the thing. We look at it, the normal way to look at it is like, oh, our kids are, not only do they have to navigate college and, and friends and fitting in, they also have this burden of explaining Israel. Why? Why can't they have the privilege and the honor to stand up for their own selves as a Jew and for their people?
Right.
So my goal is we do this exercise in the beginning of the year with new kids where we put on posters, are you Russian? Are you Jewish? Are you American? Are you Israeli? And I don't really care what they write because I have my expected outcome.
Yeah.
And my expected outcome as an educator, I need them to understand that when they wake up, they're a Jew. When they go to sleep, they're a Jew. Like pickles in a jar. You could have different, sweet jalapeno, whatever other pickles you can have, but a pickle is a pickle.
Right.
And you're a Jew, no matter where you're Argentinian or a Russian or a Moroccan, you're a Jew and people will see you that way. So once you understand that and you understand that there are 3 times more Bella Hadid followers than there are Jews in the world, then you understand that you're never going to win on numbers.
Right.
But what you can do is stand up for yourself. Don't allow anybody to diminish who you are. And then you start the work. You talk to your roommate. You talk to your professor. You raise your hand. You don't allow anybody to diminish you.
Wow. So do you work, what is the target demographic of Club Z?
Post bar mitzvah.
Okay.
So 8th grade and up.
Okay. And how do you recruit students to join?
Painfully. That's my big complaint. If you want to cut something else, as a sound bite.
Yes.
I indict Jewish parents as being one of the worst parents of our time right now because they prioritize
soccer,
basketball, ballet, SAT prep. This is all nice, but that's not going to last a lifetime.
Yeah.
You need to do the Jew prep. And, with all due respect to bar mitzvah programs and everything else, nobody's actually preparing them for, when you talk about being Jewish and somebody attacks you for that, what do you do?
Yeah. I know. It's so annoying.
But I mean, but you have to realize, Masha, that, Jew prep doesn't get you into Harvard and,
right.
and Yale. It's the basketball and ballet and fencing and, right. and all of that.
Yeah, but trust me, the second the Jewish kids walk into Harvard or Yale, they wish they had that Jew prep because it's going to be one of the first times in their lives that they're confronted with this in a way that they're just unprepared to deal with. It's so sad. It's terribly sad.
Right. No, that is exactly. And so one of the things, I'll tell you a story. I was at my first APAC policy conference. I don't know if either of you have ever been.
I have, no. Yeah. I've been to a few, yeah.
It's an incredible experience
it is.
Because, so for me, coming from the Bay Area, the birthplace of almost every anti-Israel Jewish organization.
Right.
I was just like, this was unbelievable. I exhaled. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's incredible. I'm sad that they don't do that anymore.
I agree.
But they had Obama speak and then Bibi was speaking. And when Bibi was speaking on stage, a young lady, literally two rows and 2 seats behind me, all of a sudden stands up, takes off her jacket, and she's wearing a pink t-shirt, and she starts yelling, da 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 da. And he's a murderer. How many babies did you kill today? She gets, of course, carried out. APEC is known for their security. I found out who that young lady was, and it was probably 2010. And in 2010, everybody was reading blogs and everybody was documenting their every possible thought that they had. And so
True.
What became very clear, what they were writing in 2010 is what manifested in 2014 as a if not now. They were writing, my Jewish community has lied to me.
Right.
And this young lady grew up in a Jewish family in the Bay Area. She went to Jewish summer camp. She went to a Jewish youth movement, the largest Jewish youth movement in the North America. She went to trips to Israel, and yet she came to that conclusion.
Yeah.
And what I realized is that she has a point. The Jewish education is not talking about the conflict.
Right.
They're talking about everything else but the conflict. And when I started digging and asking my son's Jewish day school and my synagogue, like, can we do that? It became clear that they don't, because it's controversial, it's too difficult. But that's where we're failing our kids.
Yeah. No, 1,000%. I just to talk about AIPAC for 1 second, because you said something that really resonates with me. Like, just walking down the hallway there, and everyone is so pro-Israel, and you see like diversity, like real diversity, Jewish, non-Jewish, Black, white, Hispanic, and like, you're so right, because I come from campus life where literally all I do on campus is look at everybody I'm passing by and be like, do you like Jews? Do you like Jews? Do you like Jews? Like, in my head, I'm like, do you hate me? Do you hate my students? And then you go to AIPAC and it's just like, oh, everyone likes us. And it's just such a pleasure. And I've taken Jewish and non-Jewish students there, and it's been a game changer. And I wish they would do it again. I don't know why they stopped. But anyway, side point. So I want to get back to your the education piece. Yeah. How did you go about building a pedagogy around this, or a curriculum, or how did you think about what you want to teach to these kids? So, zero Jewish education background. It's like a beginning of a bad joke. You're like unburdened by a previous Jewish education.
But that is exactly what happened. I did not realize what I was getting myself into, because what I thought was, again, having a healthcare sort of like lens of the world, and thinking, if there was a problem, you go and you address it. How difficult could this be? I thought. Right. How long could it take? Possibly. I mean, I help women, birth babies. I teach them how to breastfeed. This is not that difficult. And I really never meant for it to be anything more than, kind of I was granted, I was gifted a beautiful curriculum that was called Israel and Jewish Identity. And to me, it made total sense. And I thought, okay, great, I'll get a group of kids, and we'll do that curriculum, and that will be it. But the kids brought their friends, and the friends said, we want to meet not once a month, but twice a month, but can we meet every week? And wow, and it's sort of like snowballed. But how did I develop the pedagogy? I think the guide was common sense and seeing what resonates with the teens and what is relevant. I think it's very, very important to connect everything they were teaching to kids, not, Zionism, the conflict, anything else. You have to root it in Jewishness. And I don't use Judaism on purpose because it puts it like religious practice, but I mean Judaism in a larger sense. Yeah. Right. We're a civilization. Right. We predate the concept of everything, the concept of race, the concept we predate it. Right. So you have to root it in that, and you have to connect. Our two foundational things are you're part of the peoplehood is extremely important, and that you are an indigenous person to the land of Israel. And once you understand that, you wake up, you're a Jew, you go to sleep, you're a Jew, and you're not actually white colonialist. You're not actually from, Russia or Argentina. Your parents might be born there, but there's a reason they were born there. Right. because we were ethnically cleansed from our own homeland. And now we're back. And all of the other indigenous people are trying to learn how we did it.
Yeah.
So yay, yay us.
Right. It's so true. That's so true.
Again, it's the unburdened by nuance and complexity.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, it's true. It's true.
So I was on your website, and you have a lot of great resources on the site for, not just for students, but really for anyone who just wants to get a deeper understanding of the conflict, of the history of Israel, of the history of Judaism. It runs the gamut. For your students that you educate and who are then become advocates for Israel and Zionism, what's the hardest thing that they're confronted with that they have to try to combat?
Haile will know. The apathy of other Jewish students. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is the most demoralizing thing for them.
Oh, yeah.
And, we have an interesting case study right now at UC Berkeley because we have 4 or 5 alumni there. And every single headline that came out of Berkeley since October 7th, our students are behind them.
Wow.
And that has always been my dream, is to have not just one Club Z alum at a campus, but when we have multiple of them, then they're going to strengthen each other, and they will then accomplish so many better things. But yes, apathy of other students. That's why when people tell me, why don't you bring your program to non-Jews? I'm like, I still have hundreds of thousands of Jews to take care of.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're really speaking my language. This has been the hardest thing for me this year. People ask me all the time, every day, like, how is it on campus? And honestly, I could take anti-Israel, non-Jewish kids. I could take the faculty. I could take the administration. I can handle all of that. What hurts me the most are the Jewish kids who don't care, or even worse, are anti-Israel. That's like a separate, but that's like almost a whole separate thing. I almost could justify that more because I truly believe that Jewish kids who are anti-Israel are just brats who are trying to piss off their parents and their community. I don't think, and you have a few who actually believe the far left garbage, but I think most of them are just, trying to be counter or whatever, But the Jewish kids who don't care, who can't be bothered to show up, who can't, we had a thing last week on campus that we did for the hostages, and we had a beautiful setup. We did like right in the middle of the campus, the Jewish kids who avoid us or who don't come, who don't want to show their faces. I don't know. It hurts me more than anything else. It's so sad.
Yeah. It's very sad. And I think it's, again, it's the Jewish parents that have, their Jewishness began with, let's put an empty mezuzah cover on the door.
Haile has talked about that multiple times in the podcast.
Oh my God, it's so sad.
And they're gonna put they do little dreidels, but
my latest, sorry to interrupt you. My latest example is the shul. I saw a synagogue, a temple, whatever, who had a Sukkot party. And if you know anything about Sukkot, the point of Sukkot is to eat in the sukkah, right? Like you're supposed to eat all your food. They had the buffet set up in the sukkah and tables and chairs outside on the lawn. And I'm like, no, like flip it, like show them what this is supposed to be. But anyway, okay.
Okay, but highlight small steps.
I know.
I bet you they did not have a sukkah 5 years ago.
It's true. That you're 100% right.
See,
we're getting somewhere. It's true.
Steps.
It's true.
Okay, but what do you think? Okay, here's my question. Am I allowed to ask?
Yes.
Questions?
Oh, of course.
So, okay, we're being bad because we're making fun of, but how somehow we have Russian Jews who put up New Year tree.
Yeah.
It's not a Christmas tree. It's a New Year tree.
Right.
And they have a stronger Jewish identity.
I know.
then
I know. It's shocking. I know. I don't know what to say about it anymore. Like, it's all about education. I mean, but it starts, what I love about what you're doing is that it's too late when a kid comes at 18. I don't want to say too late, but we're too far into it when an 18-year-old shows up at campus and I have to start with like, let me tell you about the land of Israel. It's located between the Mediterranean. Like, that's too late. Like, I need kids that show up who already are committed to this and understand what they're going to talk about. And yes, we can have questions. And yes, obviously there's always something to learn, but we're so far behind. We're so deeply far behind where we need to be.
Well, I would say that growing up, my mom, she definitely imparted to me the importance of Israel to Judaism, but she didn't teach me anything about Zionism or Israel or anything like that. I mean, I learned that on my own.
Right.
But I think those people who are inspired to learn on their own, being able to have a way to guide them and making it easy for them to figure it out is critical. And I also think that the other piece of it is, unfortunately, with what's going on campuses and just on social media, and everywhere in the world at this point with what's happening with Jews, I think a lot of Jews who weren't necessarily brought up with a deep sense of Judaism, I think a lot of them are going to come to it because they're going to be. I think young people rebel. I mean, that's what young people do, and I think that, and there are some people who will not, for sure. There are some people who will do their best to hide, or go the other way, and become, Bernie Sanders capos. But I think a lot of Jews will be drawn to it because that they're being told that, they're less than because of their Jewishness.
Jay, you're a really good example, because Masha and I come from different communities, but you are a good example of where we are in this country. And also you're so old that you missed birthright and all the other opportunities that existed. And so you come from the American Jewish liberal generation of kids who never went to Israel, didn't get that. You kind of vaguely knew that Israel was important, and your mom, obviously was a Zionist and all that, but you didn't have any of the kids today, if they opt in, I mean, there's so many opportunities. Some of my students have gone to Israel 3-4 times on paid trips, right? Like it's a whole different ecosystem right now, but you have to opt in, and we need our kids. That's why Club Z is important, because we need our kids to know that they should opt in when they're in college, because there's so many opportunities for them.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, the a little bit of a silver lining is that I do know, and I don't have statistics. I have, individual stories of young people realizing that their non-Jewish boyfriend or girlfriend are not going to cut it.
Yeah.
And have moved on from that. And to me, it's like, okay, something that had to happen, but now you get it. So, get busy with the Jewish partners.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you guys do trips to Israel, or how do you
we try. We've done one trip so far in 2022. And the idea is to go every other year so we can get enough, to put at least 1 to 2 buses. Funding is always the issue. So we're looking for funding. And the trip that we did and the trips that, we will do in the future is going to be unlike anything else. Let's just put it this way. When Club Z kids consequently went to Birthright on their Birthright buses, the guides were asking them, how do you know these things?
Wow.
And help me explain this to your peers, because I don't understand what they don't understand.
I know.
That's great.
That's so
awesome.
good.
Yeah.
So since October 7th, I mean, some of this will probably be obvious, but I still want to ask the question.
Yeah.
How has Club Z changed, and how has the interest in in what you do change amongst, how has it changed amongst the students?
Listen, so, I mean, the demand skyrocketed, truly. Probably 3 to 5 times a week, I get an email from somebody, oh, please come open Club Z in my community, which is great. What we actually did on the ground is we have developed a completely new approach to our education in a way that is, we used to only focus on, leadership development. And, with that, I only focus, I only want kids who are going to, big ROI. I want them to run for student senate. I want them to, write, to be publicly speaking. We were raising officers, but we need the boots on the ground. And so we developed a program, an educational program that is a lot less time intensive for the participants, but will still give them the foundational basics that they need. And so our approach is to, very few people would sign up and say, okay, every other week, 3 hours, plus overnights, plus all of these development, professional development opportunities. A lot easier to sell. It's once a month for 2 hours. Again, I do blame Jewish parents. Make it a priority.
I know.
Why can't we do it once a week for 2 hours? But, but at least once a month for 2 hours, and they get the basics. The reason we were willing to do that is because we realized kids who came to Club Z just for 1 year, for example, they were just as willing to stand up on their college campuses and just as able to articulate points. Maybe they weren't as elegant, maybe they weren't as, as deep, but the beginning is we need to recognize when something is wrong, we need to call it out. And so for that, you don't need, 3-4 years of leadership development through us. You can have the basics. And then because we don't let anybody go, we support them. If something happens, they'll call us before they call their parents.
Wow.
And so they know that we got their back. So they're a lot more willing to then stick their necks out.
Right.
Because it is scary, right? It is scary, but they know that they have the support. I have Lawfare Project, Brandeis Center, I have them on my speed dial.
Wow.
And so we connect them. Our kids are the ones who are plaintiffs a lot through these, court cases that will take years. Right. But in the meantime, at least they're there, they're organizing, and they're making waves, which is exactly what we need to do.
So it's one of the things I was thinking about as we were talking about the education is to some degree, the education is the easy part.
Yeah.
And the hard part is the bravery.
Yeah.
Because
the confidence. Yes. They have to have the inner steel rod. And for that's what takes a long time to develop. Yeah. And that's where, right. Because again, we have a lot of Jewish kids who know.
Yeah.
We just don't have a lot of them who have the chutzpah to stand up.
Listen, I want to tell you something. I am not a shy person in general, and I feel very confident in what I know. And I've taught Israel education for years. And when I was in a room, it's been unfortunately many times in student senate or even at our city council meeting at Long Beach City Council this year. And I got up to speak in front of literally people who hate me and hate Israel and hate the Jewish people. I can't tell you how I feel inside. I feel like I'm going to throw up. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I get so stressed, my anxiety, you know what I mean? And I'm already a confident adult with all the knowledge and, whatever. And I have a position in the community that and even at stupid student senate. And I tell myself in my head, I'm like, why are you nervous? These are stupid kids who don't know anything. But when you get up there and you're facing, keffiyeh clad people who don't show their faces and they hate you and their eyes are looking at you, it's scary. And so every time one of my students gets up, I have so much respect for them because it is hard. I'm telling you from experience how hard it is. And I think a lot of people in the Jewish community, they sit back and they throw stones at us on campus and they say, why don't more students do it? Why can't everyone get up and fight? Why? And people don't know what it feels like to be in that position. It's so hard, and you really do need bravery. And our kids, I call a kavod to our students who do it, because and to people like you who are helping them with that, because it's hard.
One of the things that we do that used to be controversial, I don't think it's controversial anymore, and we've done this for years. We brought high school students to campuses to anti-Israel events.
Oh, so important.
Because if the first time you find yourself surrounded by Jew haters, when you're far away from home and you're supposed to stand up and speak up, listen, I'll tell you what happens. The first time you bring students to this anti-Israel event, whether it's Stanford, Berkeley, or a city council, it's a disbelief. It's you can't prepare them for it. And usually they're just sitting there in shock. And I tell them, your objective for this, lesson number 1, don't cry.
Yeah. I just don't cry
because, because it's you feel so powerless.
Yeah.
By the time they go to these things, number 3, number 4, first of all, it's fun.
Yeah.
Second of all, we already know everything they say. You don't have to listen to their arguments. We already know everything they say.
Yeah.
And so the objective is ask a question and ask a follow-up question. And through the questions, you can then expose the hypocrites, the haters, the terrorist supporters.
I love that. I love that idea of bringing them. It's so important. When they passed BDS on our campus the first time in 2017, and we thought we were going to win. We thought we had the numbers in the student senate, and we were all standing there, and they did the vote, and it was packed with Muslim students and pro-Palestinian students, and there was our Jewish group on the side. We thought we had it, and then when they announced the votes and we lost, the other side started to scream Allahu Akbar, like over and over again. They were screaming, and I'm standing there with my Jewish students, and they are sobbing and crying. And trust me, I wanted to crawl into a ball and sob. Tears were like right here, but I had no choice. I'm the adult, right? They're looking to me, and I just like gathered them all together, and I just thought to myself, like, why do we have to put up with this? Like, and for a long time after that, I told my students to stay away from student government. I said, you know what? We don't need to engage. Let's not participate in this anymore. If they want to pass resolutions, who cares? It's not good for our mental health. Like, I went into that kind of mode, right? Yeah. Obviously, that's just not an option really anymore. And it's like, we have to engage with it. But man, it is hard. I just don't want to like belittle what they're doing.
We had in the past spring, mostly our California students have given, but there are some in North Carolina and Durham and Charlotte. They have given 90 speeches in city councils and Board of Education. Wow. Even a hospital board decided to hold it's a farce.
Yeah.
But we need to. One of the things that, we need to tell adults, go to these things, go to these places, understand what it feels like on your skin, and then understand what it means for you not to prepare your kid.
Right.
Negligence, parental negligence.
Yeah, it is.
I think
it is.
I don't believe Haile's story about getting nauseous at these things, because we were at we were at the DC rally after October 7th last year. And there was this group of, I don't know, what's the name of the group of the Hasidics that are
Notori Karta.
Yeah. I was there. Yeah.
Oh, you were? So Haile went up to this guy and started ripping him. Just laid into this guy. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, Jay ran away. He was embarrassed to be with me.
I was like, it's like a honey badger. It does not give a crap.
Nice.
It's easier to yell at your own people, I think, than to the other side.
It's probably true.
Okay, I have a question about Club Z. So how do we create this for adults? Because there are so many people our age, like our own peers, who know nothing, right? Who can't identify what happened in 1967, don't understand what the West Bank is, don't know who Sadat was. I don't know, whatever. Like how do we model this for adults?
This is our number one request. When do you start Club Z? When do you open Club Z for adults?
Yeah, it's true.
So, it's funny because we do actually a lot of adult education vis-a-vis parents. So we do try to do that. But listen, especially now, there's so much content. You could spend 40 hours a week just watching YouTube videos and get an incredible education.
Yeah.
I'll do the plug for our own Club Z YouTube channel. There's content for hours upon hours.
Mm-hmm.
There's no lack of educational opportunities for adults.
Yeah.
People just need to get.
I wonder if we need one of the national orgs, like, I don't know, Federation of North America, to like actually commit time and money to like putting together resource manuals, like or just a homepage where it's like all the resources that people can find. I feel like there's just not. I know people ask me all the time, what can I do? What can I watch? And I send them whatever I think, but there should be some kind of landing page somewhere with like credible, good quality, high quality stuff. I don't know.
Listen, we have a big problem within the Jewish educational establishment.
Yes, we do. Which problem?
Who would be right? Like, who would be teaching these things? Because unfortunately, again, the Jewish education reflects the Jewish community.
Yeah.
And they were, up until October 7th, the biggest concern was, how do we make Hebrew gender neutral? Right. I mean, it's there, it's out there, right? It's documented.
Yes.
Then how do we raise Jewish identity of our students?
Right.
We have an entire organization that talks about how traditions needs to be moved.
Yeah.
I thought traditions are there because they're traditions.
Right.
So, it's
Masha speaking our language.
100%.
What do you mean? You don't have 19 things on your Seder plate? That's so weird. You're so weird. You don't have something. This year I'm having for the Palestinians. I'm going to have a watermelon. The center.
A watermelon. That's my favorite fruit.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's not going anywhere.
It's funny. I was reading an article, might have been yesterday in the New York Times, about how colleges are starting to do a better job sort of cracking down on these, anti-Israel and anti-Semitic protests. And on one of the campuses, and I think you and I saw this, the people who set up a sukkah under the tree.
Oh yeah, that was so funny. Yeah.
And it had like a stop arming Israel sign on it. And the kids were saying, they're not letting us practice our religion because the university took it down. And it's you weren't actually practicing the religion.
So the university
you were
pulled
practicing
out
the religion of social justice.
Right.
You weren't actually practicing the religion of Judaism.
Imagine if the university pulled out like the Talmud of Sukkot, because there's like a section of the Talmud called Sukkah, and it's like all about the laws of Sukkot. Imagine if they like pulled it out and were like, actually, let's read the Babylonian Talmud on how a Sukkah should be. That's what they should do from now on.
But to your point, Masha, it's the religion to some degree, to some people has become almost a bulletproof vest of virtue signaling as opposed to actually practicing the religion.
Right.
Because it's been reduced to really sound bites, taking things out. Tikkun Olam is a beautiful concept, a very, very orthodox. Right?
Yeah.
Or it's between Tikkun Olam and tzedakah, and there are many. I know of many synagogues that have tzedek tirdof, justice you shall pursue. What's the next line? So you may occupy the land that I gave you.
That's right. They don't like that part. Yeah.
Right. And it's really, it's what Rabbi Sachs said, non-Jews respect Jews who respect themselves.
That's right.
As Jews.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And it's when we are, not cultured Jews, but actually we understand what it means and what our job is. Mm-hmm. For all things that could be said about Islam, Islam's job is to bring monotheism to the world. They're quite successful.
I know.
Our job is to bring the light into the world. So we need to know what that light is, and not to have a a parody of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
True.
So one thing I saw also on your website is you have a very impressive list of speakers who work with you, and in particular the fact that Richard Kemp is involved with Club Z, who's
who could do many other things.
yeah, and he's really been one of the righteous Gentiles of this whole thing since October 7th. How did you get involved with the Colonel?
So I met the Colonel at the first yahrzeit of Ari Fold in the Gush.
Oh, interesting.
And then another light, Mordechai Kedar, has given us both a ride in his very old Volvo, And I met him that way, and we started talking, and I invited him to speak at our conference. And then I've invited him ever since to every conference. And and not only that, what was amazing is that when we brought our students to Israel on 2-week trip, I asked him, would you happen to be in Israel? Because he goes to Israel quite often. And he said, yeah, I'll be in Israel. I'll stop by. And he ended up sitting on a bus with us for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
With the
my
kids.
God.
That's amazing.
And giving them the wealth of knowledge and the strength to be titanium.
Wow.
To not be afraid to stand up and to understand their place in Jewish history. And that's what I tell the kids. There's 300 plus million Americans. We as each American, whatever our contribution is, but each of us as Jews are so much more powerful because there are so few of us. So we each and every single person has and has tremendous consequences of their action if they meet their Esther moment, if you will.
Wow. Masha, I just want to say, okay, I know we have to wrap up already, and I feel privileged to meet you, honestly, because I meet a lot of people who work in the Jewish world who are just don't have the same authenticity that you have, and I'm so grateful for what you're doing, and we're lucky to have you. Thank God that thank God that person told you were a Jew. I'm very grateful to that person in the
office. Indeed. Thank you. Thank you very much. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
So if someone wants to get involved with Club Z, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can go on our website. It's Club Z as in Zionism, clubz.org. They can email us, info@clubz.org.
Okay. Donate. Can they donate over there?
Yes, they could donate. Yes. We would greatly appreciate the shekels.
Plug for donations, everyone. Come on.
Thank you. Yes, support us, because everything is going to go to the kids.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And,
awesome.
Yeah.
Kol hakavod, really good job, and thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Thank you for the opportunity to spread the word. And for when I first started, I was trying to make a play on words, so I had fun edJEWcation as one of our things.
Cute. That's cute. Fun edJEWcation.
That's awesome.
So yes.
If you ever have anything else you want to promote, any big events coming up or anything, please reach back out to us.
Yes, please.
Of course. Please.
Yeah. Okay. So we've been hosting a conference for teens to come together. It's the only one teen-oriented Zionist conference. Our number 10 is happening. We're going back to San Francisco.
Oh.
And for the first time ever, we are actually going to be running an adult track.
Oh.
So Bay Area people.
When is it?
Or California people. It's MLK weekend.
Oh, okay.
And it is, they'll have access to Colonel Camp. They'll have access to all of our speakers. And it's in a very nice hotel.
Oh.
They should come.
Okay. Maybe I'll have to go there.
I was going to say, I'd like to volunteer Chayleah services to you for the event.
Maybe I'll have to go up there. Are you going to be there, Masha?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe San Francisco for MLK weekend.
There you go.
We'll see.
Nice mild San Francisco weather in January.
Exactly.
That's right.
Wow.
Right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Masha. I'll talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.